Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So I made a couple of videos recently about the amount of money that streamers make and what they do with it, but something happened over the weekend that I thought I'd make this video about. You had Ben Shapiro and Hasan Piker going back and forth about video game quotes, specifically the line in Bioshock where Andrew Ryan is giving his speech about why he made Rapture, and the repeated line is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow. And it's a really interesting line. I think a lot of people take that line and they of course think of it as the the end game, or like the most distilled version of sort of a capitalist society. Just the idea that you are entitled to 100% of the cost of your labor. The work that you do, you should be fairly compensated for it. Or at least you own all of that value from your labor. And I think it's an odd thing to think about, especially if you try and break that down, because that's a arguably incredibly left-leaning thought. Just the idea that the work that you do as a person, you are entitled to 100% of that cost. Believe it or not, taxes is not a left or right leaning idea. Tax is all state power. Um, Personally, I don't mind taxes just because I like society. So I'm fine with paying my taxes and everything like that. But a lot of people tried to call that hypocritical of Hasan to say that a man's entitled to the sweat of his brow, his own labor, because he's a streamer. And most of what he does is, admittedly, reaction type stuff. He'll watch other people's content and comment over it, things like that. But that's mostly all news is now anyway. Sure, they're going to report facts and things like that, and you can say the same with almost any streamer. All of it's going to have their opinions injected into it and things like that. Especially if you consider the two focal points of the argument being Hasan, Piker, and Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro does the exact same thing Hasan does. It's just for a different crowd. That's it. But they have the same job. It does make, I don't think that the amount of money you make streaming is bad or anything, but it's hard to compare a career type like a streamer when you try to put that into these, like, say, a Marxist outlook. How could he compensate the people who, like, let's just say for reaction type content, how do you compensate the people who made that initially? You can pay them out, sure, whatever, but say with news agencies and stuff like that, if you run someone's story, they usually don't pay out. Or if they do, it's technically they would only have that story because of the person who made it initially. Wouldn't the cost of that labor all go to the person who they're reacting to or they're reporting on? Those type of jobs make it's it wouldn't have been something considered when Marx was writing his books. I mean, even when, like, the foundings of capitalist thought were coming out, no one would have imagined these type of jobs. So it does make the idea of who's owed what to that labor. And yeah, if you have editors or things like that, sure, pay them out. But at the end of the day, the only reason they make as much money as they do is the person who's actually on camera doing the presenting. So shouldn't he be entitled to his labor? I think he should. What do you think?